welcome to the
There you go again, bro. There you go again with the little satire. You need to have your own comedy show. What's it called on Comedy Central? You know how to be on some Trevor Noah stuff or something like that.
We working on that.
You and Trevor Noah?
Nah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Infusion Breakdown Show. As always, it's your boy Joshua Freeman. To my left, I got Mr. Bryan Carey. To my right, I got Mr. Desmond Tillman. Got something wrong?
Bro, it made me restart the placement test. All right, what's good, people?
Get out of here, man.
What's good, people?
But how you guys doing? How you guys
Fantastic, bro.
Moving week.
Another 4-day week. I'm chilling.
Another one?
Yeah.
Why?
I got a lot of PTO to burn. That won't carry over to next year. So I just get to take
January 1st is the cutoff? Oh,
yeah.
shit.
We can only carry over 40 hours of vacation, so I've just been taking days off throughout the month.
But some places do it according to like your hire date.
Yeah, ours is.
Just uniform January 1st.
Yeah.
But the question we have on the docket today, what's the most admirable trait a person can possess? Comment below, let us know. We do want to hear you guys, okay? Also, don't forget about the timestamps in the description below. Bryan worked very hard on those, so check them out, okay?
Check it out.
So, who wants to go first on this one? As far as the most admirable trait a person can possess.
I'm most interested in seeing what you have to say.
Me?
Yes.
Who are you most interested in hearing?
Why you want to say them time?
I said, who are you most interested in hearing what they have to say?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Told you.
Nah, it doesn't matter. I didn't really think like, I really want to hear what Desmond has to say on this one. No, I wasn't that filled.
No, I thought I really wanted to hear what you had to say.
I know, kind of figured. Mm-hmm. But I would say confidence is the most desirable trait a person can possess. Because even through failure, confidence can basically reign supreme. Like even if you fail at something, if you still have that confidence, you'll go back and try it again, no matter what it is. So I feel that confidence is really the most desirable trait a person can have, because not many people have confidence, and those that have confidence, I feel they're more successful than people who don't have confidence. So that's how I look at it, confidence.
Cool. Desmond?
Admire. It's not even like a question of what do I look for more. It's like, what does one person do so well that I want to do it as well?
I mean, there's a degree of overlap.
Yeah, there definitely is. But I think like just answering it for the sake of the question.
You didn't think about this before?
I did, but how I was thinking about it was the incorrect way. Like as we started talking about it more, I actually thought about the question itself.
What's the way you thought of it first?
Like what do you want to see in someone? Not necessarily like what do you think will inspire you almost, or what inspires you within like that person. It was almost like I was thinking of it as in like a like what top trait do I look for in people, and I don't necessarily think that's like a admiration. I think that's just like a desire. So I would say if there was a trait that a significant other of mine that I would potentially admire, it would be probably the ability to comfort. Because I think we get so caught up in the ways of society as far as like hardships and having to just deal with everything on our own, we kind of forget how valuable it is to have somebody that can just listen rather than, provide advice or just do whatever that doesn't necessarily benefit the situation itself, but kind of like allows you to just like, okay, I'm allowed to feel the way I'm feeling. Like it's someone that actually allows you to like separate yourself from society so you can kind of dissect what's going on within that current moment of how you feel, versus just being so caught up in that particular failure or that, trial and tribulation, or trial that you're going through. We'll say, we don't even say tribulation yet. But I think the ability to comfort is something that's, definitely admirable, because I think at a young age we're kind of really fast paced, and we kind of don't take that time to sit back and analyze that other person's emotional state. I think we kind of get stuck in the grind of worrying about our own emotional state on top of, what we want to accomplish as a person, that we kind of don't take that time out to analyze where someone else might currently be at that point until it's too late, or you might potentially never do it at all.
Nice. So what Desmond just described, the ability to comfort, is that kind of what you said was a green flag last week? You said something that...
Yeah, you said something like a person can take your mind.
They take you away from the current context of life.
I said that last week.
Yeah.
What about comfort?
Is that an accurate way of summarizing what you said last week?
I don't remember what I said last week, but I am on the same page as him. Like, yes, that's what comfort is. Yes.
Okay.
Why
you remember?
Yeah,
I
remember.
I was just curious because, so the question last week was about red flags. So with that, the opposite I thought about, what would those be? So the opposite of a red flag is a green flag. So that, like, the lack of and the opposite of it is having. So for your example, you said the ability or a red flag is how someone treats their family, like they treat them poorly.
Yeah.
So I thought perhaps a green flag, or the opposite, a really admirable trait in your mind, would be someone who treats their family well. And that's kind of what you got it, because comforting people is a skill that's a necessity in your family.
Yeah.
And so I was just seeing how the answer would change based upon the romantic context of last week as compared to the general one this week, where it's somewhere you can just look. You can kind of like I said, just basically admire them, or a trait that you seek to acquire for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting dynamic between the two.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about now. What I said about comfort. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
To take you away, and you said they can make you laugh, and
yeah.
Okay. I was on a very similar page as Desmond, so I thought about initially traits like intelligence and things like that everybody would give you a short answer for, but I wanted to dive a little deeper into it, and I said, so what is really an admirable trait? And so the answer I came to was compassion. So compassion, by definition, is the pity or concern for the suffering and misfortune of others. And so life is full of suffering. It's hard. It's a constant challenge. No matter who you are, there's constant challenges that you face. And there's actually something really profound I find about compassion, because you're able to understand. It gives you a different outlook on life. You're able to understand and put yourself in other people's shoes and adjust your paradigm. So there's actually a quote by Father Abraham Twerski, who's a rabbi. And so he tells an anecdote about his father talking about somebody who had done him wrong. And what he says is that if the person knew how foolish what they did was, they wouldn't have done it. And so that kind of embodies what I was thinking about pity, is because you have a certain level of understanding, and you prevent yourself from putting yourself in that place of anger with that person. And that helps you put things into perspective. And once you do that, I feel like that unlocks a bunch of doors in life that were previously inaccessible. Oh, and while we're at it too, I think it's also important to be compassionate towards yourselves, because a lot of people don't actually express that we're more compassionate with other people than we are with ourselves. And we tend to beat ourselves up and ruminate over situations. And when you do that, we tend to dwell on the wrong things. And instead of using them as learning experiences, we use them as ways to degrade ourselves. And that's long term, it's not sustainable. It's detrimental.
Why do you think that is?
Why do I think what it is specifically?
Exactly what you said.
The last part?
Yeah.
Why do we dwell on things like that?
Well, why are we less compassionate towards ourselves than we are other people?
Because we live with ourselves. We know all of our shortcomings. And so it's very easy for me to see a cross-section of yourself and see you for all your accomplishments, because people typically outward, we tend to showcase our successes. Like social media, for example. People post the things that are going great. So if I only see that from you, that kind of skews my perspective of you. Whereas myself, I live with the reality. I know the good, the bad, the ugly. I know everything that goes on. I know things that I'm particularly proud of. I know things that I'm not proud of. I see everything. And so with that, we see ourselves as more complete human beings as we do other people. That's my take on it.
So do you think that's necessarily a bad thing then?
Do I think it's a bad thing that we are harder on ourselves than other people?
I mean, so essentially what I think you're getting at is you're saying that because of the amount of intellect and understanding that we have of ourselves, we're less compassionate of ourselves than we are versus other people.
We are.
But then I would turn around and say, well, if you spent that same amount of time with someone else, do you think that level of compassion that you have is going to remain the same, or you think it's going to decrease over time? Because then you kind of start seeing, like, okay, first time it happened, I understood it.
Mm-hmm.
Then it keeps happening again. Am I supposed to keep maintaining these same levels of compassion, or am I now saying you need to hold yourself accountable for what it is that you're doing?
Right. Well, with that being taken into account, I think we are, like, over time, that compassion tends to be more realistic.
Yeah. And I think we are kind of like less compassionate of ourselves because we know better. But everyone has that kind of greed within to where they want to do certain things knowing that it might be wrong, but it feels good in the moment. Or not even on the sense of greed, but under-preparing. Like, we knew we underprepared and we expected a different result. Or we knew we were supposed to get something done, but didn't allot the proper time to get it done. Like, I think it's kind of that thing of just knowing, whereas when it's with someone else, you don't necessarily know. So it's kind of hard to scrutinize or hold someone accountable when you don't know their own level of intellect in regards to that given topic. Whereas us, we knew what we were supposed to do, and we still obligated not to do so. So I think, of course, we're always going to hold ourselves at a higher standard and be kind of less compassionate because, you know, until we kind of develop that, well, it was good enough for me mentality, you're always going to be a bit harder on yourself than you would be anyone else. And I mean, it's always going to be that shift. You're always going to be harder than yourselves, but at what level are you like, I'm a complete dumbass, I can't do nothing right? Or you're like, yeah, I did what I was supposed to do. It didn't come out exactly how I wanted it to, but I tried, and I'm happy with that. Because, I mean, there's still a level of scrutiny, but then it's still that, you know, that level of compassion associated with it as well, to where you're still complimenting yourself as well, even in failure.
Whether it's healthy and constructive
is
the main deciding factor. So you had asked, too, is that always a bad thing? And the fact that we're more compassionate towards other people than ourselves? And I don't think so, because the things that we do have within the realm of our control, the things that are under our domain, we've exercised a far greater degree than we do over the actions and character of other people. So if you're unhappy with somebody else's actions, it's more of, you're better off spending that time that you're concerned with that on fixing things that you can control, which are more than likely things that are pertaining to yourself. So your habits, your actions, your thoughts.
Yeah. Are you guys... When you guys answer this question, were you guys thinking about in terms of relationships, like the opposite person in a relationship?
Yeah, definitely.
No,
I was.
You wasn't?
I think by extension it's a subset, and I would have a serious problem with me answering this question one way, and then in a relationship another if I was to have a different context. Because you think about, this is a trait that you really admire, and I think of this as something that applies across the board in any kind of interaction. Just a human trait. So I think you can't really separate this. If this is something that I really admire, I can't really take that away from a relationship context. Like, I would want my girlfriend to have these traits. I want my wife to have these traits.
Why did you look at it more as a relationship?
This has been a topic of conversation in my current life. Because I spent...
What, as far as the most admirable trait?
No, so... Not necessarily the admirable trait, but relationships itself has been like a topic. My godbrother was down over the weekend, and you know, we kind of had a lot of conversation about, you know, what our late godmother had talked about as far as when it comes to a relationship, the importance of having steel on both sides. You know, steel sharpens steel's mindset that you want your wife or your husband to essentially be that equal to you rather than being that person that takes from you. So I kind of was thinking about it in that aspect because it's been a constant subject within dialogue between, you know, people I've been talking about. So that's why it's just the most recent thing in my mind.
Okay. What about if you're not looking at it as a relationship aspect?
If I wasn't looking at it from a relationship aspect, I think ambition was how I was going to answer the question at first.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to say ambition because you can't buy ambition. And I think it's one of those things where you got it or you don't, or you have to work hard as hell to make up for that slack. Okay. Kind of like the whole talent versus hard work thing. Mm-hmm. Like some people have talent, some people have hard work, or some people have talent, some people work hard, and then some people have nothing. Like they just choose not to do something. So some people are going to be like just hella ambitious for whatever reason. Like we may never know. And then some people are going to be hard working to where it builds up that desire to be ambitious, to where being ambitious becomes second nature. Like you work for it to become second nature. And then, like I said before all of that, you have those people that kind of just stay afloat, like maintain. Not saying that maintaining is bad, because it might be what's best for, your own person, but I think ambition is one of those things that I would definitely put if we weren't solely talking about the relationship. I mean, it's good to have ambition in a relationship as well, because it's that whole steel sharpens steel's mindset. But when I think about
sides,
yeah. But when I think about just like, where we're at as people today, the ability to, like Bryan said, be compassionate and then also be comforting is just two of those things that's really hard to come by, I feel. And not hard to come by in the sense of like it's a rarity, but it's hard to come by in the sense to where words are spoken in a way that impact you. Like people are able to say what they need to say to where it generates a form of like emotional response to where it resonates with you. Not necessarily just hearing somebody, oh, it's okay. Yeah, a billion other people can tell me it's okay. What can you do to make it, to make me just feel at peace at the moment? Not saying be my peace, but what can you say that can actually generate that or stimulate it?
That's a skill.
Yeah.
So, okay. You don't feel... Okay, I do believe that compassion is an admirable trait, of course. But do you feel that things like what we said, ambition and confidence, are more admirable than compassion? Because you wasn't even looking at it as a relationship. I thought you was looking at it as more of a relationship question.
I look at everything.
Okay, so do you feel which one is more useful, I guess you could say?
Compassion.
Compassion is more useful?
Compassion is cross-compatible. So if you look at, like, the first example that I cited was intelligence. So something like that is very constrained to that domain of specificity. So someone who has an engineering degree and they do biomed or something like that, or electrical engineering. Someone who has extensive knowledge of that, and we're just focusing on their intelligence. Once you remove them from that domain, so that's very, very limited. Like I said, that's only pertaining to their work. But inside their family life, that doesn't really translate well. It doesn't do anything for their interpersonal relationships. Whereas if you have compassion, you can maneuver inside of a family dynamic, friendship, relationship, workplace, anywhere you go, even with strangers. Like compassion goes with you everywhere, and it gives you a renewed perspective on things.
Okay, I'm just looking at it as a way that the world is a hard place, so being compassionate to everybody isn't like the most ideal thing. That's what I'm thinking of.
Well, I said compassion, not naivety.
How do you know the difference, though? Exactly, because a lot of people, I feel, don't know the difference between...
How do you know the difference between compassion and naivety?
Because I feel a lot of people don't even know the difference.
I draw the line of being taken advantage of. That's something I absolutely detest.
Okay, I get that's your line, but I feel a lot of people don't know when they're being taken advantage of and things like that, though.
They don't. It's a very individualistic type thing. Like, if you know when you're exerting yourself too much, and we can deny it to ourselves, which we typically do, like I said previously about telling ourselves narratives and convincing ourselves. Mm-hmm. But we know in the back of our minds, or the forefront, depending on who you are, when you're being taken advantage of, when it's no longer advantageous for you to do a particular thing.
Definitely.
You say you always know? The person always know? Like in
I
the
feel
back
like
of
they
them?
do.
Yeah, the person always knows. It's just hard to draw a line.
You don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about in relationships, so like let's say you're exerting yourself, you're constantly doing stuff for this person, and I found the easiest way to tell when you're overexerting yourself or if the relationship is dead is when somebody asks about how things are going, you instantly find the need to justify things when you say, well, this happened, but like you're constantly doing that. So that tells me subconsciously you know that something's wrong. Otherwise, there would be no need for you to justify it.
Yeah, I agree. What do you guys think? What stops people from possessing these traits? Really, is it just an environmental, just how people was raised? What do you guys think? They just lack it. Not everybody has the ability to be compassionate.
I think it's always a lack of knowledge or experience.
Experience.
Yeah.
Think the same thing.
we have to discuss this one by one. So for your answer of comforting people, why don't more people possess that trait?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's very similar to my answer, compassion, which I would group those. Like I said, the explanations we arrived to are very similar. I would say that comes from, it stems from pain, because people, unless you adequately are able to deal with your own pain, it inhibits you from opening up to other people, and that's kind of a necessity for compassion, is to kind of put yourself in other people's shoes and empathize with them. So you have to have some kind of emotional connection with that ability to. And so when people have a lot of pain that they haven't dealt with, they're not even functional at a level where they're capable of doing that. But for your answer, why don't more people possess
confidence?
Why don't more people possess confidence? I would say for the very same reason that I said that we're more compassionate towards other people than ourselves, is because we know everything about us. We know the worst parts of ourselves. And so with that, we're more critical of ourselves, and it's like you can't really escape that. So unless you're constantly feeding yourself positive things, not necessarily like bullshit affirmations, but you also acknowledge, like, with equal weight, the good that you do as well with the bad. If you have that out of balance in the wrong direction, you'll never be confident. And then also, like, true confidence is built through skill. So you have to be able to back it. Like Desmond, let's say you're a phenomenal baseball player, which I have no evidence to back that, but for this example, you are. So you're a phenomenal baseball player. You're going to be confident because of your ability. You know you've practiced. You know that you've hit how many home runs at practice. You know your statistics. You know how much work you put in for it. Versus somebody who has not had any practice, and you put them in a situation, the confidence isn't going to be there. And if it is, it's false. It's pretentious.
Okay. What if they do hit a home run though, and they didn't practice?
They got lucky.
That's luck.
I mean, you can get lucky any day.
Yeah, I guess. You got anything to?
Why don't you think more people possess those traits?
No, I agree with you. Confidence. I was going to ask you, all of this stuff has to be learned, right? Like, you have to learn to be compassionate. Do you have to learn to be confident? Do you have to learn to comfort people?
I think you learn it at an early age, and if you don't learn it at an early age, you learn it later in life.
I feel like there's a baseline. Like there's some concern initially. Like if you were to see a young child crying, you would know that something was wrong. You might not necessarily go to see about them or try to make amends for whatever happened to them, but you would still know that something was wrong. So I think that's where compassion starts, is acknowledging emotion in other people. That's the baseline requirement for it.
So you have to learn it though.
To get better, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I agree with you. That's basically why people don't have confidence. I do believe part of it's environmental, how people are raised too. Parents don't always raise kids with confidence. Like, they don't always give their kids confidence. There's certain factors that go into that, and that's why I say environmental too, because it's just how people was raised too. Like how Desmond said one episode, it was like, yeah, how people were raised is a lot. So, so yeah, that's why I was going back to with most of it anyway. So. But anybody has anything to interject?
No, I think we
for this topic.
I think we did everything we were supposed to with this episode. Or this topic, I should say. Did everything we were supposed to.
Alright. So if nobody has anything else to add to the discussion, comment below. Like it. Don't forget, okay? But you have an album of the week for us?
Let me check real quick. I've been playing a lot of that classic Trey Songz stuff. So for Virginia, we're going to give it to I Gotta Make It, Trey Songz' first album, when he was sounding like a little church boy trying to make it out of VA. So
check it out. Also, don't forget to share the discussion we had today. All right. But anything else you guys gotta say?
No, sir.
You guys good? All right. We will be seeing you guys next week. Okay. Peace.